Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
And today we're going to be talking about night one of the RNC, specifically what the mainstream media didn't want you to see during it, and how they felt the need to cut away, not only to air commercials, but also to fact check things that the mainstream media didn't like from the RNC, something they did not do to Democrats last week. So we have a bunch of footage from all different media outlets, including Fox News, shamefully enough.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because they did it across the board. And
I'm always right.
Okay, Joe's playing with his action figures. So before we get into that, I got to mention that today's podcast, again, is brought to you by ACE Scholarships, which is a pro-school choice organization that helps provide children from low-income families with scholarships to private and charter schools in grades K through 12. ACE Scholarship was founded in 2000 with a vision to give every child access to a quality education and has since awarded over 42,000 scholarships across 8 states. Their annual luncheon, their fundraiser, is tomorrow. So we have a link in the description if you want to get involved. It's a really good organization that helps kids get out of failing schools and into private schools to help realize their potential. So if you want to get involved, make sure you check out the link in the description. Their annual fundraiser is tomorrow. It's over online because of the coronavirus. So check out those links in the description. Okay, let's get into this. We had a warning from CNN a couple days ago that they were going to do this. We had a warning that they were going to cut away from the RNC to fact check, to correct the wrongs. And the way that CNN described it was that they were going to have a lot of interesting choices to make. Let's go ahead and play cut one. This is the warning.
And the television networks are going to have interesting choices to make, interesting decisions to make about whether to cut away if there's this stream of disinformation happening live.
Disinformation. You mean information that's real, truth.
Yeah.
But truth is ambiguous these days, so hey, listen.
That clip was originally going to be much longer, but I had to cut away from it because of how ridiculous it was. Nice action figure. I like your. Was that a Pez dispenser?
It's a pen.
It's a pen. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a pen, and see, you can write with it, and it talks to you. Ready?
Nobody can do that like me.
Well, so that is there. Let's make sure that we like the video, we comment, and we share.
Yeah, please share
Joe's
it.
Donald Trump pen.
And
the bobblehead.
just so you know, a viewer actually sent this to me. Yeah,
oh yeah.
They sent these to me. So you don't get any of the swag. I get the swag, right? So I got a bobblehead. It's gonna go on. It's gonna go on my car, on my dashboard, right?
Yeah.
So we can make my car great again. And then
Hold on 1 second. Give me a second.
I'm gonna. He's got something. Here we go. You are not alone.
Luau Donald with his ukulele.
I like it.
Yeah. So let's see if we can get some likes, some comments, and shares for our bobbleheads.
Yeah.
It was interesting that CNN warned us that they were going to cut away because that's exactly what they did. A lot of these times they're not lying to you. They're showing who they are right from the start. Last night, Donald Trump had a panel. He decided that he wants to appear at least in some part in all 4 nights. So last night he had a clip of him talking to first responders, police officers, truck drivers who were making sure that medicines got delivered, nurses, doctors who had coronavirus and recovered. CNN cut away from that to fact check the president because he wasn't wearing a mask. And in CNN's eyes, they weren't sufficiently social distanced. Let's play cut 2.
You represent an incredible group of people, and We love you all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening.
The first appearance tonight from President Trump. Dana, your reaction?
Well, first of all, Wolf, they were really not socially distant, not wearing masks, standing there talking. Still, it is pretty telling that the focus for the president's very first appearance at this convention was the coronavirus pandemic, which has killed more people in America than in any other country in the world. Now, we've heard President Trump say the virus.
So they cut away from that. You can see that Jim Jordan gave a speech. That was something, that was a trend on CNN. Every time a sitting U.S. congressman decided to give a speech, CNN cut away from it. It happened to Matt Gaetz. They did it to Jim Jordan, and they did it to one other person. I forget who, but they did it later on in the night.
Not Tim Scott. They cut away to actually criticize Tim Scott.
Yeah. So the important thing that they're missing here is that no one, as we've said on the show before, no one gets into the same room as Donald Trump unless they all test negative using the Abbott Rapid 5-minute test. Everyone in that room had tested negative. Donald Trump does not have the virus. There is no actual reason to be social distance. There's no actual reason in that clip to be wearing masks, which is why film productions are allowed to shoot videos without all of their actors and actresses wearing masks, because they've checked them. Right? When you're talking about on-screen talent, it's the same reason that CNN isn't forcing all of their correspondents to wear masks, because they've checked them. They're good. You don't need to wear masks. But what we saw from the DNC was that they wanted to wear masks just for the sake of wearing masks. When Joe Biden was outside standing next to his wife watching fireworks, he was still wearing a mask, even though he was outside and nowhere near anyone who could possibly give him the virus. Right? They're just trying to use it. It's not for the utility of the mask, because in these situations it's unnecessary. They're doing this because of the symbol that the masks represent. And that is control, that is fear. That is why CNN cut in there, because they were absolutely livid over the fact that Donald Trump had a video of him not wearing a mask and his guests, who had already tested negative, not wearing masks either.
But it's also the pettiness. I mean, let's just call it what it is. They want to say it's disinformation. Show me the disinformation. Some of the things that they actually said last night when they cut away were just absolutely just astonishing. It's almost like being back in elementary school. We have to put up with people saying, hey, Johnny took my pencil. Johnny took my pencil. Johnny wrote on my desk. Johnny did this. That's the equivalent of what we actually hear from the mental midgets on the left. That's what we hear. And the propagated media. I can say that, right? So, do we have to put an explicit for the mental midgets on the left?
No, but we should say mental little people, just to be completely politically correct.
Ah, come on! Are you serious? Max, not you two.
Yeah, I mean,
I said mental midgets. Midgets are smaller people, right? So mental midgets, small brains.
Yeah, it could have been worse. Yeah, it could have been worse. You could have called them dwarves. So it wasn't just CNN, though, either. Fox News also cut away. Fox News actually cut away from the first speech of the night. Charlie Kirk was giving the first speech of the night, and Fox News wouldn't even let people listen to that first speech. Let's play cut 4.
Largest pro-American student organization in the country, Turning Point USA, fighting for the future of our republic.
The Republican National Convention has officially begun, about 6 minutes in, to frame it for us.
Why? Why do we need a cutaway to let us know that the Republican National Convention has begun, and to go to someone who's going to frame it for us? Let us watch it ourselves. I understand that they want their ratings, that they produced a show and that they want their show. But there's a reason, Joe, that C-SPAN's live stream last night had 6 times as many viewers as the DNC's Night 1 C-SPAN live stream did last week. And that's because that was one of the only places you could go, other than our channel. We had a live stream last night, so if you want to escape that, check out ours. That was one of the few places people could go, or knew to go, to escape these constant cutaways, these constant interjections, these constant politicization. I mean, I like Tucker. I like him. He's great. But when the RNC is going on, Tucker's just going to have to accept that he's not going to have a show that night. Sean Hannity's going to have to accept that he's not going to have a show that night, because the American people need to see it. The American people need to see it. The reason that Fox didn't cover the DNC is none of Fox's viewers wanted to watch the DNC. And if they wanted to, they could go to another channel.
Do you notice how
Fox
CNN did, though?
wants to see this.
Yeah, so does CNN's. So does pretty much all of them.
Yeah. It's just, do they really think that their ratings are going to go up? By not covering it, their ratings are going to go down. Absolutely. I mean,
I don't know how much worse they could get for CNN, though.
Yeah, well, CNN's in the toilet already.
It's terrible.
But for Fox, does Fox really think that they're going to go up in the ratings when all of their viewers, all their conservative viewers, are watching something else? Does anyone really think that? No. They're doing that just because, I don't know, I guess they want to do it. They feel like they've hired talent. They want to produce their show. No, it's just, I mean, just like when Trump has rallies, sometimes you just have to cut out and let the American people see what's going on. But this was across the board. It wasn't just Fox News. This one I felt was really egregious from Fox News. And I want to play this one. This one, I believe, if I'm correct, I don't know if I labeled it correctly, but I think this was Fox News cutting away from Vernon Jones. Let's go ahead and play cut 3.
Workers, especially since that's what they want for you and me. Our police need more funding, not less, for frequent psychological examinations, for
a small break here. We have Mark and Patricia McCloskey also coming up in just a moment. We're going to hear from Andrew Pollack, whose daughter, Meadow, was killed in the Parkland shooting. But first, get a quick reaction from Dan Bongino and Leo Terrell. Dan Bongino.
Well, Sean, what a difference in the opening. I mean, Americans want to be proud of something. And what better to unify us and be proud of America.
No, they muted it.
We're proud of America.
This is crazy. Why?
Yeah. So that person who recorded it, that clip, then switched over to CNN because CNN played it. Just so anyone who doesn't know, Vernon Jones is a Democrat. He is a Georgia state representative who is a Democrat.
Yeah.
He decided that he was going to still be a Democrat. He didn't switch parties, but he was going to support Donald Trump. And he got so much heat, they tried to force him to resign. I think originally he said he was going to resign. And he said, screw that, I'm still going to run in my race. He was a Democrat. When Kasich spoke at the DNC, you didn't see channels cutting away. That was the big story.
Yeah.
That you got a crossover speaker. Here we have a black Democrat talking about people, Joe, exactly what you've been talking about, getting off the Democrat plantation and voting for yourselves, not the way you're being told to vote. That's what he's talking about. It was one of the best speeches of the night. And Fox cut away so that Dan Bongino could give his take.
He's more important.
No one wants that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Dan Bongino. I like Sean Hannity. But this isn't what people were watching for. How can they possibly think that they're more important than the RNC? No, take the nights off, guys. Pre-record a couple of videos, a couple of seconds of saying, hey, we were going to have a show tonight, but instead we're going to show you the RNC in its entirety, and then just be done. But no, they had to keep cutting in, because they felt the need to fact check. They felt the need to get their own hired talent. I really think that's what it is. I think with CNN, Joe, it's about the fact checking. MSNBC is about making Trump look bad. I do think with Fox, it's that we've hired these people, we're paying these people, and we don't want to pay them to do nothing. That's how it feels to me.
Just postpone it. Let the RNC happen, and then have your show afterwards. I mean, don't disrupt it. I think it did more damage to Fox and other networks because they finally, I think people are waking up. People aren't just waking up. They're looking outside and saying, my community is burning. These people are burning down cars, right? They're burning down buildings. They're looting. They're stealing. Sorry. They're stealing and murdering Americans for doing U-turns and saying that, hey, I'm for equality, while they literally destroy everything in the community. Yeah. So I think Democrats on their side have the walkaway movement. I had a conversation last night with a lifelong Democrat, and the conversation was pretty telling because I asked him, I said, Alan, tell me how you're going to vote in this election. I said, if you can, and if this is, if I'm being too forward on this, please tell me. And he goes, Joe, I get polled all the time. He said this, I get polled all the time. He says, they call my phone probably at least once a month. Now, most of us have never been polled at all. Nobody's ever called me and asked me to take a poll. But
my wife got called last week, and she hung up on them and said that she didn't have time. My wife is unemployed. I said, no, you answer that poll, and you say you're supporting Trump. You're supporting Trump. Like, how can you say you don't have time?
No. What Alan said was perfect. He goes, lifelong Democrat. He goes, but really the thing that separates me from most conservatives is my social views on abortion. And I go, well, me and you will never agree. I am pro-life 100%. And Alan's son is gay. He's like, well, conservatives hate gays. I said, well, this is how the conversation went. So conservatives don't hate gays. Matter of fact, conservatives they accept you where you are, not where they want you to be. Now there's a small percentage way over there that nobody wants to own, that are bigots, that are racist, but nobody owns them. And by the way, that's drying up. That pool is drying up dramatically. But he goes, Joe, but besides that, I'm a conservative. I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe in the Constitution. I own guns. But I've been a lifelong Democrat. He goes, but when they call me and ask me who I'm going to vote for, because I want them to keep polling me, I told them I'm going to vote for Biden. And they're like, why are you going to vote for Biden? Fiscal policy. And he goes, the fact that they actually listened to me and said, oh, yeah, fiscal policy. He says, yeah, I think that I need to pay more taxes. And I go, Alan, you don't really think that, do you? He goes, who in their right mind would think that paying more taxes would be good for anybody?
So there was an LA Times poll in 2016, and the LA Times did their poll a little differently. They had a group of people that they decided were demographically similar to the country, and those people didn't change. So they kept going back to the same people and saying, how are you going to vote? And there was one or two black men in their sample who decided early on, I'm voting for Trump. And that poll got completely discounted because they said, oh, no, well, they had two black people that slipped in. And that's why your poll was so skewed. And it turns out that the LA Times was one of the most accurate polls of the 2016 cycle. Not because there were people on that were skewing it, but because that actually represented the fact that there are African Americans out there who are supporting the president, who are conservative, who are done voting for Democrats for no reason. It's so obvious that they are doing this on purpose. Joe, have you seen the video? I think you have for Kim Klacik, the Maryland black woman who is running for a congressional seat
in Baltimore. Yeah, she's a firecracker. She's a firecracker. Love her.
She's great.
Yeah.
Her video is going viral. Last time I saw, I think it had almost 10 million views on it. Really, really viral video. A black woman standing up and saying, no, I'm not going to vote for a Democrat. I'm going to be a Republican. Everything the mainstream media should want to show you. Black woman, thinking for herself, strong, independent, viral nature to it. Lots of people want to watch it. Let me show you what MSNBC did when she came on the screen last night. Let's play cut 5.
That's Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. The stars belong to him. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
And here we have another burst pipe in Denmark. If you
look, this is how they cover her
Are
speech.
there any interesting photos from your trip?
Ouch.
Let's let this run a little bit. That's it. I guess I cut off. They went right to commercial. An independent black woman gets up to give her speech after going viral on social media, after outraising her Democrat opponent in donations, and they cut away. They just completely cut away.
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't need to watch this. They let you see it. That was better than what CNN did last night. CNN didn't even have the footage in their little tiny box down at the bottom. They just had a video of the White House in at night with the lights on. At least MSNBC let you know there was something going on that they didn't want you to hear. But, I mean, that was deliberate. They knew she was coming up next. They said, oh, no, we're going to cut away. People don't need to hear this. Even though she checked off all the boxes on what a mainstream media outlet would want to show. And when the Democrats had women of color, use their term, women of color, at their convention, they were praised. Oh, wow, how diverse, how diverse. We've seen Fox cut away from Vernon Jones, and we saw MSNBC cut away from her. I mean, it seems obvious at this point. Does anyone not think that it's obvious that they don't want people to see that independent black thinkers and black voices are coming out for Trump? Let us know in the comment section whether you think it's for any other reason or if you think it's that way. Also, make sure that you like and share the video. People need to see this. And the way we get organically into more people's news feeds is by you hitting the like button, hitting the share button, and leaving comments. That tells Facebook that this is a popular stream. So please make sure that you do all three of three of those things
and
really helped us out.
And we like messing with Facebook. Facebook tries to stop us, so we just put it out there on 20 different platforms, and all of a sudden, tens of thousands of people every day download our podcast. And so it's becoming more and more and more popular all across the nation. And it's not because we get on here and we try to propagate or lie to you. Matter of fact, we make it very clear that everything we put out in front of you has to be factual, right?
Yeah.
Even the part that the Democrats are the party of, even though the party of the Democrats, and Max is going to give a disclaimer after this, is the party of pedophiles, rapists, and closet racists. Tell me I'm wrong.
And the disclaimer is that only some of them are
big portion.
Yeah, big portion, but we can't give a number because we'll be fact-checked. Yeah, no, I mean, we like to call it as we see it, which is why I think we're getting more popular. Yesterday, we had that stream of the shooting showing that second camera angle. Surprise,
that nobody ever saw, right?
Last night, the media starts showing the second camera angle. I mean, it's not that hard to see it. I just question why we are so much ahead of these mainstream media outlets when it's just us and Mr. Producer Josh doing this. They have whole teams of writers and researchers. How is it that we can find things so quickly and they can't, and we can verify things so quickly and they can't? Oh, it's because they don't want to, right? They didn't want people to know that the man who got shot by police was actually on the ground fighting with police prior to him being shot. They wanted to make it look like he was just walking into his car.
But we had no. That's not the narrative that they actually did in the news. What the narrative in the news is that he was breaking up a fight between two other women, that he wasn't actually being pinned to the ground by police officers.
And
which
he
is
got
not
tasered for being a good Samaritan.
He got tasered for being, good citizen. And by the way, they did confirm on 2 networks yesterday that he did have an outstanding warrant for his arrest for that sex assault, domestic violence, sex assault.
Oh, so they can, great.
So
we
2
were right
networks
yesterday.
confirmed that, and they also confirmed that the same person that said, and this was a local network, which is really odd they brought it up, but confirmed that he did actually have a conviction for a felony conviction for using a weapon in the brandishing a firearm, something like that. So, what we said yesterday was true. People are picking up on the fact that it's true, yet still in the mainstream media across the board, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, they're all doing the same thing. They're all suppressing the truth. They're all basically saying, hey, listen, we don't want to get that information out there. It's not convenient. And this is the danger about having a news network like Fox that at least gives, I think, a more balanced approach to the news, is that it's the last man standing. It's like the U.S. We're the last republic. We're the last free place in the world, right? And the same thing we said for Fox. How easy would it be to sway it so that it started realigning itself with a CNN and MSNBC?
Well,
I think the danger is pretty great, right?
That was Maximo Alvarez's speech last night. If anyone watched that last night, I thought that was one of the most powerful. He came from Cuba, and he's basically holding back tears, saying that his father told him, do not lose this place, America, because there's nowhere left for you to go. We talk about Fox. You talk about Fox like that. Fox has shifted left ever since Paul Ryan got added to their board. That's not a coincidence. Paul Ryan was a rhino. Paul Ryan was not really a conservative, right? Michael Steele, the old head of the RNC, he came out yesterday and endorsed Joe Biden. Michael Steele, it wasn't that long ago that he was the head of the Republican Party, and he is now coming out for Joe Biden with that idiotic Lincoln Project, right?
Right.
Donald Trump has purged the fake conservatives out of the party, and they're trying to fight back, and Paul Ryan is one of them. Paul Ryan's one of them. So. Okay, Mr. Producer, let's put on that image.
Come on, that was great. I had to.
So this is what I put together because this really feels true. This is the new news cycle. The media plays another video of a man being shot for no reason. Then we find out the victim had a criminal record that the police knew about, and they knew things that would have caused them to be on edge. Thugs burned down the city, evaporating all public sympathy for the cause. And then finally, the unaltered or unreleased video comes out showing that the shooting was likely justified. That's the news cycle that we're in. Every single week this happens. Every single week. And the fact that they came out with that second video last night after the city had already started burning down, absolutely shameful. And last night, Joe, they burned down the black business district. They burned down businesses in the predominantly black business district. black-owned businesses were torched last night in the name of social and racial justice.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to create chaos, opportunity and chaos, this is exactly what you would do. You would do exactly what they're doing right now. You would do that.
Oh yeah, if you wanted to be like an insurgency, yeah.
Right. And I think I think that's
tactics.
But there's things out there that say that these Antifa guys are building caches of weapons, right? Weaponry, right? And that they're going to have a offensive against people in America. And I keep saying to myself, what? This is why organizations. It's like organizations like FEC United is so powerful in the community with UADF. So not a militia, but just a group that can actually protect the community of people from the community. Frankly, I'm embarrassed by the fact that we let thugs get their 2 minutes of fame on TV. I'm embarrassed by the fact that a police officer gets hit by a brick and someone says that it's justified, right? That they can actually say that hurting another person while but a person that has committed crimes over and over and over again, I'm supposed to feel bad for them because they decide that they don't want to listen to the police. We have police for a reason. It's to keep order. When you don't have police, you have what we had in Kenosha. You have mass looting and rioting.
Did you see the story where the New Jersey, I believe it was a prison guard or he was some kind of corrections guard or official, some kind of law enforcement official. He got only suspended for posting on social media that Cannon Hidden, the 5-year-old who was shot in the head execution style, that he should have ducked.
What?
Did you see that?
No.
Yeah. It was.
Do we have something on that?
No, I don't have it. I just I
put that up.
Reminded. Yeah, New Jersey officer suspended over social media post about 5-year-old North Carolina boy, and the social media post was that he should have ducked.
He should have ducked. I want to break that guy's face.
And all he got was suspended. A 5-year-old being shot in the head execution style. That's what we're dealing with. I do have another image that I wanted to put up because as I'm thinking about Maximo Alvarez's speech, anyone who watched it, this was how I was feeling last night. Let's put up the image. The image I sent you, Mr. Producer. This is how I felt listening to that guy's speech. The only good communist is a dead communist. That's just really how I felt, and I think a lot of people felt that because he had escaped communism. He'd escaped socialism. He actually compared Fidel Castro to Joe Biden. It was stunning. It was a stunning speech. But again, mainstream media doesn't want you to know about that. Let's see. Let's go through a couple other one of these. We have to take a break in a second.
And by the way, you can actually watch the RNC. You can watch it here on our on Conservative Daily. Right, and we'll live stream it, and we won't interrupt their speeches. How's that?
Yeah, so we don't interrupt their speeches. I try and just talk during the transitions. But tonight, we're not just going to be fact-checking, and by fact-checking, we count the truths for the RNC. And since I can only handle 2 things at once, I don't track the lies. Instead, I'm tracking the number of times that CNN cuts away. But tonight, we're going to be doing this kind of Hollywood Squares style, where we're going to have the RNC going, unedited, and then we're going to have all the different boxes for the other mainstream media outlets so you can see when they are cutting away and when they are not allowing people to see it. So we're going to set that up. So you don't want to miss that tonight. We're going to be going live probably 8 p.m. Eastern just because the RNC seems to be going a little bit earlier, and we want to be able to explain what's going on to people. Last night we kind of got caught off guard a bit, so make sure you tune in for that. So we got to take a real quick break to play a video from our sponsor, but when we get back, we're going to cover a couple more cutaways that the mainstream media had. One of them was ridiculous, and we're going to play a clip of Chuck Todd claiming that the president's speech, not speech, but remarks to delegates yesterday had only 1 minute of truth in it. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Last night, I had a dream. Shook me to the core. Opened my eyes, and nothing was like before. Graduation, prom, hanging with my besties, those safe faces, safe places, rooms where you would test me. 2 square meals a day, gone. And
we're back from that break, again, our sponsor for the podcast, at least through tomorrow, is ACE Scholarships. If you want to help them with their school choice mission, helping low-income kids get out of failing schools and into private schools, check out the link in our description. Their annual luncheon is tomorrow.
And it's going to be a great luncheon. It'll be a terrific luncheon.
Make sure you check that out. It might be going on at the same time as our podcast, so it might be a little self-defeating to send people there, but it's a good organization. Make sure that you check it out.
It's an unselfish thing to do, though, if you want to watch the luncheon, because it's going to be great. It's going to be something that can actually help kids in the community in these 8 states, and they've done a lot of good. All over the country, they've done a lot of good.
They have. So I want to put this image up. This was an MSNBC fact check of the McCloskeys. Let's put up image number 1. So the McCloskeys spoke, Mark and Patricia McCloskey, and as you remember, they were the St. Louis couple that held their firearms to prevent the angry mob from torching their house, killing them, killing their dog, which was all threatened against them. All of those things. The RNC actually played audio clips, the audio from that encounter, and they actually isolated the individual threats, and they played that during their video leading up to Mark and Patricia's appearance. But MSNBC decided to cut away and to fact check. They called it a reality check. And Mark and Patricia McCloskey said, put that back up one more time. What they wanted to do the reality check for was that Democrats want to abolish the suburbs altogether by ending single-family home zoning. And MSNBC said the reality check is Joe Biden does not have a policy to abolish the suburbs. He supports fair housing initiatives.
How is that the same thing?
You know what the fair housing initiatives
These people are ridiculous. Yeah, I do.
So what we're talking about, I want to make sure I get the acronym. It's I think it's like AIFFF. Basically, it's an Obama administration program that was going to rezone suburbs and rural America to create low-income, dense public housing.
Yeah, they're doing it. Actually, they're doing it all over Colorado.
Taking the ghettos, I mean, the low-income housing in the cities, and putting them in the suburbs, just for the sake of diversity. So I'm not saying that everyone who would coming from that would be bad people. Of course not. But there's no way to do that without bringing the problems of inner cities into the suburbs. You're going to be bringing crime. You're going to be bringing drugs. You are also going to be importing a large number of Democrat voters, which would have the ability to swing local elections, swing school board races, completely change the fabric of local communities. That reality check from MSNBC is absolute garbage, because it's an opinion that would abolish the suburbs, because if you take the inner city projects and the ghettos and put them instead in the suburbs, you have destroyed the suburbs. Not 100%. Because you're putting bad people in there, but you can't do that transplantation without actually bringing the same problems out. But they ruled that as false, because they said, no, Joe Biden doesn't want to destroy the suburbs. He just wants fair housing. It's garbage.
I don't even know. I don't even know how to put two parallels together. Here's their opinion of things, and we're going to fact check, do a reality check. That's not true. They can't actually. That perception can't be true, right? And try to discount them. Look, I think that what we're facing right now is an age of stupidity, right? And I think it started when they said everyone gets a participation trophy, right? Everyone's special.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be the president of the United States. Everyone should go to college. You know, they did everything they could to dismantle blue collar jobs. They did. I mean, the trade unions and trade organizations went away, and they said everybody needs to go to college, right? Now you're seeing a resurgence of that environment of different trade organizations, but not before it has literally created a chasm of people that graduated from college that had no business ever being there, right? And that's the biggest erosion for businesses, is that false goods, right? You have someone that came in that has a degree from some university that basically you could wipe your butt with, right? They're absolutely terrible. We run into it every day. I mean, we have to go through 20 people to find 2 good candidates for a position. And it's not because they're not good people, but they're being set up for failure because they're not being given the opportunity to. And that same thing goes across the board. This is the erosion of Democrats trying to do good but actually doing bad, or something that feels good that's actually doing bad, right? And everything they touch is the same thing, right? And they want to say that that what the McCloskeys are saying is not true, yet that was an initiative. That was a true initiative.
Yeah, that was an initiative.
Right.
And that was literally an Obama administration policy.
Yeah.
And it's couched in this idea that it's to make housing affordable. They say,
Right.
oh, well, if you live in a town that has 200, 300, 400,000 plus dollar homes,
Yeah.
no one can afford those. We need to make sure that housing is affordable. Well,
Yeah.
their solution is to increase the amount of Section 8 housing that gets built, which again, Joe, I lived in an apartment complex that was Section 8 housing technically. I wasn't on welfare or anything, but it qualified. And there was a lot of crime in that apartment complex. We had a SWAT team at least once come through because someone had threatened someone with a gun. And I had to move out of there. But the idea that you're going to take, let's just call it what it is, take public housing, take the ghetto and put it into suburban America. The reason people are living in suburban America is because they don't want to live in the inner cities. Right? If they wanted that, they'd go live there.
I lived in some really, really, really bad areas growing up, really bad areas. And I mean, I was a product of my environment. I grew up really poor for a lot of reasons. I think my parents were, my dad definitely was one of the hardest working people you'll ever meet. I mean, he's unbelievable. Worked 2 jobs his entire life. Like the entire time that I've ever known my dad up until he retired a couple of years ago. He literally worked 2 jobs, and he would sleep in between those jobs. But I lived in some pretty bad areas, right? And I saw a lot of things that most people wouldn't want to see in those environments. But I'm going to tell you that, that when you finally get out of that, when you finally see that there's a different way to live, it's an adjustment. When you live in chaos every day, and that's what the ghetto, that's what poor environments are. It's chaos. Right? Because there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of, mom's not home. I'm not eating. Education's not important. You have bad influences like gangs and people wanting you to sell drugs and all the things that, frankly, a lot of my family got drawn onto at one point or another, including myself. Now, I've never done drugs, but I'm going to tell you that I'm not running for public office. When I was a kid, I got mixed up with people that probably I shouldn't have gotten mixed up with. And it was all product of my environment. So when you take those areas and you move them into the suburbs, and they don't understand that there's a different way you can live. You don't have to live in chaos. It's an adjustment. Some people make it, some people don't. Some people can actually see that they like their blood pressure going down, not putting themselves in unsafe situations, not having to live in that chaos. And then there's other people that it's hard for them to make that adjustment. So when they get into the suburbs, they cause pain. That's why crime increases, because they're used to these things that are happening in that environment that were normalized. They try to bring it to the suburbs, and all of a sudden they figure out that that's not acceptable behavior, and on anyone's book.
So Mr. Producer, let's put up that image I just sent over to you. This is how CNN decided to interfere and fact check the McCloskeys in real time. This is the chyron that they gave to them. Mark and Patricia McCloskey, St. Louis homeowners who pointed guns at marching protesters charged with unlawful use of a weapon. Leaving out the fact that those weren't protesters, that was a mob. They tore down a gate and entered private property. And when they say that they were charged with unlawful use of a weapon, noticeably absent from that chyron is the fact that the local district attorney actually filed charges based on fabricated evidence. The gun that Patricia was holding was not functional at the time. It had been rendered incapable of firing a projectile because it was used
Max,
in court.
Stop.
It was used as a dummy gun in court.
Why are you being truthful? I need you to stop being truthful. We're going to fact check your fact checks of facts about the truth. I don't want to see you do it again. Please don't do that. Please don't talk about truth. Right? It's not convenient. It's not convenient, Max.
The truth, though, is that gun, because it was not readily capable of being fired, did not allow for Patricia McCloskey to be charged with brandishing, because that is one of the terms of brandishing. If she had gone into a liquor store and held it up, you can use a fake gun to hold up a liquor store and you still get charged with armed robbery. But when you're defending your home, the only crime that would apply would be brandishing. But if the gun isn't operable, you can't be accused. If she was holding up a water pistol, she can't be accused of brandishing. That was how dangerous that gun was. Actually less, because it couldn't fire anything. They fabricated the evidence. When that gun came into the forensics office, the team at the police station took it apart, to see if it could readily be fired. And when they realized that it couldn't, because it had been rendered incapable of being fired because it was used as a dummy gun in court proceedings, you can't get a live firearm into a court. It was rendered inoperable. The technology team came back to the prosecutor and said, hey, this isn't technically a fireable gun. She instructed them to take it apart again and put it together right so that it could be fired. Then they filed it into evidence as a firearm capable of being fired and charged her with a crime as if she had been holding it in that condition. So all that's missing from their Chiron. Right? If you're not going to give the full context, don't give any context at all. Let the people speak. The fact that they just had 2 whole lines of text under them was absolutely disgusting. I want to go to this one. This is an MSNBC cutaway because they didn't like that Donald Trump said he supports the post office. Let's play cut 6.
We're just going to jump in here for another second in terms of some of the president's claims there.
Oh, boy.
Mostly about COVID, but also about the Postal Service.
This woman makes me sick. Can I talk over her?
Caring about the Postal Service, caring for postal workers, and wanting to take care of them. The reason that's in the news and that's in this Republican show tonight is because of President Trump's Postmaster General recently having instituted changes to the post office that have created real problems, not just threats, but material delays for the mail service all over this country in terms of people not being able to get their medications on time, live animals that usually get shipped through the mail ending up dead in postal sorting facilities inside mail packages that didn't get shipped in time. Those changes
Get
to
out of
delay
here.
mail delivery times are things that have happened during the Trump administration.
You got to be kidding
for them
me.
to be bragging about taking care of the Postal Service and it's the Democrats who are out to get it is backwards.
All right, let's cut that there. I'm sorry that was a little bit low volume. Basically what they did is they just cut away there and they accused Donald Trump of his Postmaster General of doing things to cause live animals to die in postal sorting packages, which as we've covered on the show is BS. Even if the changes being made at the post office were done to slow down the mail, what was actually done was the removal of letter sorters, which, as we've talked about, are for flat envelopes.
Now, we flatten animals. That's why they died. The animals died because they were flattened. They would run through the machine, flattened, and all of a sudden, we killed an animal. It's Trump's fault. Everything's Trump's fault. Here you go, Trump.
The reason that they removed the letter sorters was specifically, according to the USPS, was specifically so they could focus on the package delays. Because they don't need these letter sorters. They're taking up space, right? Unnecessary because they don't have a surge of letters. We want to be able to use that space to process packages, to store packages, right? There's no way any change to letter sorters would negatively affect packages. It just isn't possible. And like I've mentioned this on the channel before, I've during this whole pandemic, I've needed some kind of hobby that I can do inside. I have a fish tank now. And it had 2 little Nemo, little clownfish, and I have some corals. I bought a coral online that months ago that arrived dead. It happens. It absolutely happens. But that wasn't Trump's fault.
They're making it sound like they made it sound like puppies were being killed in the Postal Service. I mean, really, that's what they made it sound like. Like a fish died.
There was another story. There was another story that a soldier, his remains were being sent through the post office, which don't do that. If you're ever in a position where you have to move anyone's remains, don't use the Postal Service. Find a more dignified way to do it. But human remains are not put through letter sorters. But they tried to connect it.
Yeah, they are.
They tried to connect it.
I don't
as
know
if
why.
Human remains would be in a flat first-class mail envelope.
I'm just really upset at you right now because you're not making any sense, Max. I mean, human remains are flattened out like a pancake deal, right? Like a cookie cutter deal, and they're sent through the letter sorters. I mean, that's the way that's done. Let's just do a disclaimer before they actually fact check us. That is not true. None of what I just said is true, but that is the amount of reasoning that these leftist, loony, mental midgets actually use. I mean, you're talking about some of the worst human beings on the earth that have a teleprompter, and they get to read off that teleprompter and try to convince you, the American people, whoever listens to MSNBC and CNN, can't be that many people, about stuff that's just not true. It's just an absolute lie. And some of you believe it and regurgitate it. You push it back out there, right? Bah, this is what's actual reality. Then you go to fact check it, and there's nothing out there that actually remotely even lines up with it. It's like playing the telephone game, and here we are. We're having a fight as people over stuff that's just not true. Trump's a racist.
Yeah,
Show me how he's a racist.
Melinda just wrote into the comment section that Trump kills plants that were shipped through the mail. Technically, corals are animals, so just gonna get that in there. I'm nerding out on my fish tanks during our quarantine because that's the only thing I can do because most of my other hobbies are outside things. People saying that I got it from China, that must be why. No, I actually bought it from someone who lives in Texas, so it was one Texas city to another, and it took a week to get to me, and the poor thing just died because of how hot it was.
Who sends human remains through the mail? No one.
Yeah, exactly. No one. But people do. But I was talking to someone who works in the postal service. They are treated completely differently. If you have human remains, they are not just thrown into a pile with all the things people on the comment section are laughing about, wish.com, all the crap you get from China. It's not just thrown onto a pile of Chinese knickknacks. Human remains are treated respectfully as USPS possibly can, given their track record, but it's processed differently. There is nothing with letters, nothing with packages that would impact human remains. It just wouldn't.
Max, let's hear what he's got to say. Trump has something he wants to tell us. Ready?
No one can kill animals in the post office like him. We gotta be careful. People will think that that's what we're saying.
That's not what I'm saying. It's not even pre-programmed. And by the way, it says made in the USA. I want to see who's actually making this stuff. It says made in the USA.
We have a couple more fact checks to play. So this next one is from CNN. It is Cuomo and Don Lemon joking about why CNN fact-checked the RNC and cut away, but didn't do the same for the DNC. Let's play cut 7.
I want them to be trained in community policing. It is a Jedi mind trick that I don't understand how people are not getting this.
Jedi mind trick. This isn't even R2-D2 level thinking. But that's politics, Don. You're running for this party. I'm demonizing this party. Everything that's bad is your fault. Everything that's not going well on my watch, you're either lying about or you're engineering somehow on the sneaky side. And again, well, who are people going to believe? We'll see who makes the better case. And yeah, you can fact check it to death. We could fact check this convention all night. People who are saying you didn't fact check the Democrats, they are not lying the way Trump does. Yeah. Do politicians lie?
Yes.
Of course. Do both parties engage in it? Yes, I'll give you the full guilfoyle.
Yeah.
But not like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Nobody lies the way this man does, has, and will that I've ever seen in politics. Yeah. So he's lying to you.
So this is the reason that CNN gave. They fact-checked Trump, but didn't fact-check the DNC, because even though the DNC lies, Trump lies much, much more. I want to play it again. We played it at the start. Let's play it again. This was the first CNN cutaway of the night. And ask yourself whether they needed to do this cutaway because of Trump's lies. Let's play cut 2.
You represent an incredible group of people, and we love you all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening.
The first appearance tonight from President Trump. Dana, your reaction?
Well, first of all, Wolf, they were really not socially distant, not wearing masks, standing there talking. Still, it is pretty telling that the focus for the president's very first appearance at this convention was the coronavirus pandemic, which has killed.
That wasn't a real fact check.
No.
When they say that they had to fact check because Trump just lies more than the Democrats, it's just not true. None of it's true.
Maybe we should fact check tonight. So I want to bring something up really quick. So this is what happens when people actually come to me. I'm sorry, I'm going to break you for a second here. When they come to me and start talking about what happens in the black community, right? And it's absolutely wrong, right? And I go, that's not what that community is about at all, right? And I saw Eric came in and said, this is the only time I don't agree with your theory about human remains. My dad lived 1,000 miles away, and the only way I could get his remains was through the mail. The package came destroyed. So this is how we don't have empathy. I want to apologize because there are people that do have to get remains through the mail, and frankly, there should be a better process for it. I don't know what to say about that because I've never experienced it. Same way that most people have never experienced. Some people, not many people, but some people have not experienced the black community culturally. the black community as I have throughout my life. So I do want to say, Eric, I'm sorry that it came destroyed, and for the others that actually talked about that as well. It's not something to laugh about, and I hope you don't take it that way.
We're not laughing about that. We're laughing. We're saying that I will not send anything valuable through USPS.
Right.
I just won't. I don't even like sending checks through the mail. I certainly won't send cash. I would never even think about putting human remains through the mail. I just never would do it. Now, for some people, that might be the only way they can do it. For me, I would spend more money to have someone take it where it needs to go, which there are other services out there that will do it.
And I think it's just
I know that FedEx doesn't like to. I didn't want to come across as insensitive. I just cannot imagine, and I'm glad that someone was able to provide a little insight into why they would do that. I just personally cannot imagine sending anything valuable through the Postal Service, let alone the remains of a loved one. Well, I can't imagine it, but I understand that some people would have no choice but to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with
so
you.
we have one more fact check. This was from earlier in the day. This was Chuck Todd jumping in and fact-checking President Trump after he gave remarks at the daytime RNC convention. We're covering the nighttime. There's also daytime events going on. Trump showed up in person to give remarks to the delegates who had just basically renominated him for their party's ticket. He gave remarks. This is the Chuck Todd cutaway from those remarks. Let's play cut 8.
Chuck Todd, we've been watching President Trump address delegates in Charlotte after being formally renominated at the opening session of the 2020 Republican Convention. That roll call vote is now going to formally wrap up. We were told this convention would be upbeat and optimistic. Well, what we have just heard from the president was a grievance-filled informal acceptance speech that was filled with so many made-up problems about mail-in voting that if we were to air just the truthful parts, we probably could only air maybe a sentence, if that much.
He's such a liar. This guy's a clown.
So the president has kicked off his unconventional convention, and we have to kick off with a massive fact check with it.
Let's do.
We're going to get to that in
Show
a
me the
second,
fact check.
but clearly this convention is going to look a lot different from what we saw last week from the Democrats. President currently trails Biden in the polls by a sizable margin. He's seemingly been looking for ways to disrupt the vote and sow doubts about its result rather than try to actually catch up the clean way. In fact, he opened his address to the RNC this afternoon with a warning about those results and then went on a tirade about how this election is going to be rigged unless he wins. As the president opens this convention, the Postmaster General is being grilled on Capitol Hill right now by the House Oversight Committee amid concerns the administration is trying to disrupt the mail and have an impact on the balloting.
So that was MSNBC's cutaway of saying that we had to cut away and we're not going to do anything. We're not going to have any other footage because if we were to re-air it, only one sentence would have been factual. That's what we're dealing with here, folks. Everything Trump said, we've spent hour-long blocks talking about how there is a case to be made for it. As we brought up time and time again, in Michigan this year during their primary, 846 dead people voted. That is not a lie. That is a statistic straight from the Democrat Secretary of State of Michigan. Dead people cast ballots. Now, theoretically, some of them could have voted and then died, but the vast majority of them were ballots that were cast by alive people voting on behalf of the dead.
Yeah.
And they caught 846
No
of them.
problems.
They caught 846. That, to say it's that number, you would have to assume that the government caught every single one of them, which the government is not perfect at anything it does. There is no way they would have caught 100. So more slipped through. It is not a lie to be concerned about voter fraud because every state that's tried universal mail-in voting so far this year has seen massive fraud, massive abuse, and disenfranchisement because when you vote on someone else's behalf, that person can't vote.
But we talked about this in Texas, too. We talked about a woman, that did all the research and actually went back down through the entire process and was able to uncover ballot harvesting. Yeah.
Yeah. One woman in her spare time spent 2 years going through one congressional district's ballots because she didn't trust Sheila Jackson Lee and she found that over 30 ballots were applied for, absentee ballots were applied for from the same person, were filled out using the same person, were filled out the same way, and then were mailed back by the same person. It's too coincidental to be, it's too many similarities to be a coincidence. She uncovered voter fraud. One person, 2 years as a civilian.
It took 2 years.
There.
Took 2 years.
Yeah.
Who else would have done it? Who else would have done it? See, the Democrats know that. They just create chaos everywhere. They've got an army of just dishonest people. Morality and ethics mean nothing to the Democrats. Nothing. Those two things mean nothing. They're trying to rewrite it. So now they put truth outside of truth, right? They say, okay, you can, or morality outside of morality, and say, everything's acceptable.
Truth over facts.
Let's move the goalposts. Let's move the goalposts. Let's move the goalposts. They continually move the goalposts on what should be acceptable, right? They do. You say whatever you want. The indoctrination is real. 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Hey, hold on a second. This is not me talking, by the way, and just making this up. They are teaching kids that you are not a boy. If you're a boy, hold on to that. You could be a purple dinosaur. Please do not tell me you're a boy. They are actively recruiting kids to the LGBTQ environment. Now, I don't care if you're gay, right? I don't. Nobody does. Nobody cares if you're gay, trans, bi. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What you do in your bedroom is up to you. It's not up to me. It's between you and if you believe in God, God. At some point, if those that do believe in God say, well, that's your deal, not ours, right? But nobody cares. But recruiting kids is sick. Like if you're recruiting kids, if you're actively trying to indoctrinate kids in 2nd and 3rd and 4th grade and saying, hey, you don't know what sex you are yet. You could be one of 94. You're grooming them. You're doing the same thing that pedophiles do. You're doing the same thing that rapists do. You're doing the same thing that really bad people out there do. That's bad. That's terrible. That is ethically and morally.
My 2.5-year-old son, my 2.5-year-old son came downstairs yesterday, crawling on the floor, pretending he's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people out there who believe that that's a little bit too young, but once you get to 3 or 4, kids should be able to decide their gender. I mean, they're pretending to be animals. They're pretending to be dinosaurs. Right. It's just, this is insanity. Absolutely insanity. Well, so I want to end this by talking about what we're doing tonight, because we're doing another live stream of the RNC tonight, a fact check where we're counting the truthful statements, but we're also going to have on the screen, a la Hollywood Squares, a bunch of different streams from all the different channels, so you can see who is covering what, and who isn't. And we're going to count the number of times that CNN cuts away. Maybe we'll do a different one. Maybe we'll do PBS tonight. We'll count PBS's cutaways since we did CNN last night. But you want to make sure you tune in for our live stream. We're going to be going live at 8 p.m. Eastern. That gives us enough time to explain what's going on, roll out the rules to our drinking game, which we're going to have again tonight. Lots of people like the drinking game. Lots of people say that it's tough. It is tough, but it's designed to get you to that happy place. We're going to roll that out. So don't miss our live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. And Chrissy says, sorry, I'll miss it. That's okay. If you're going to miss it, we will also be posting the recording on our Facebook page, so you can watch it after the fact if you want.
So I want to plug this too, because this is happening in Colorado. Okay, since we're here in Colorado. And by the way, if you see this picture right here, this is fake news. We haven't had any water in forever. That grass is all yellow here. And we have massive fires here in Colorado, for those of you that don't know. But the trees are not green. The grass is not green. That lake is probably dried up, that one right there. So this is what it would look like if it was ideal. This is not what it actually looks like right now, but still a beautiful place. Now, in Colorado, on September 13th at 1 o'clock, we have a 100,000 person march to end the madness. So it's going to be at 1 o'clock. We'll have some more details on that if you're in Colorado, but we're actually working with other states as well. So far that are going, that we know are going, and we just actually pushed this out, is about 30,000, 25 to 30,000. We're hoping to get it to 100,000 people. And it's just to end all of the nonsense that we're having to deal with the pandemic and the fact that they're weaponizing a disease against us as people. So want to let you know that we are going to have that. I'll have some more information on that if you're in Colorado. If you're not in Colorado, I'm sure that something will be propping up on that date on September 13th in your state as well. All right, sorry, Max. I had to add that to it. Just kind of plug along.
Well, I'll let that be your final word.
That's my final
for the show
word
today.
That's it. That's all I get.
You have another final word? If you have another final word, you have another final word. But I thought that would be it.
I'm a very unselfish person, so I'm going to give my final word today to Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. Ready? We don't know what it's going to be. He can say anything at any point. He use a teleprompter.
It probably only has 3 options.
Shh.
Oh no, huge mistake.
Yep. All right. Well, that's just
final word.
Well, that's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. Remember to tune into our live stream tonight, 8 p.m. on our Facebook, 8 p.m. Eastern on our Facebook page. Also, we have a bunch of links in the description for ways you can subscribe to this podcast. If you want to subscribe to the audio form, you can do it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or Podbean/the Podbean app. Also, make sure that you like and follow our page if this is your first time finding us. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. We also have other links in the description. If you want to follow us on Parler, look for @Conservative Daily, all one word. If you follow us, we'll be happy to follow you back. There's also a link for you to sign up to our for our newsletter, which in the event that we ever get taken down, that's going to be the newsletter that we use to be able to keep the show going. Also, we have action alerts that go out informing people of important things going on in D.C. that need your attention and that the mainstream media isn't focusing on. So make sure you check out all the links in the description. And if this is your first time watching us, welcome to the party.
We love you.
My name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
And remember that the fight to take back our country clearly isn't over, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together.